This is the Vivo X70 Pro. Not only does this give you the best smartphone unboxing experience ever, it's also the most powerful smartphone camera in partnership with Zeiss. I mean, it's photography redefined. Vivo has aimed this at professional photography, and we're here to put that to the test. Hey guys, welcome to this camera review of the Vivo X70 Pro. This entire intro is shot using the Vivo phone itself, so all the blur you see is done digitally. Let's find out how good the camera on this phone really is. The Vivo X70 Pro is nothing short of a true flagship. You've got everything the competition does. A 6.56-inch AMOLED display, 120Hz refresh rate, HDR10+. You've also got the MediaTek Dimensity 1200 5G flagship chipset on here, up to 12 gigs of RAM and 512GB UFS 3.1 storage, under-display sensor, 44 watts charging, all that great stuff. But where it really shines though is the camera. There's a reason why this is a camera-focused video more than anything else, is the fact that this might be one of the best Android camera phones on the market right now. But is it the best camera smartphone overall? Let's find out. Let's take a look at the hardware we've got. You've got a 50 megapixel main wide camera with gimbal OIS. You've got a 12 megapixel telephoto 2x optical zoom. You've got a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera. And lastly, we have an 8 megapixel periscope telephoto camera capable of 5 times optical zoom and up to 60 times digital zoom. The optics here are all Zeiss with the Zeiss T coating on the lenses. Now, all of that alone is impressive enough, but that's pretty much the reason why this is a dedicated camera review. That's a pretty bold claim to even have it printed on the phone itself, saying that it's got professional photography. Let's take a look at some of the camera samples of the images that I took with this phone. Just to keep it interesting, I'm starting with the ultra wide angle camera. I was actually quite impressed with this. It's a 12 megapixel, but it has very good sharpness all across the board. So edge-to-edge sharpness, no loss of quality towards the edges, and the highlights and the shadows are very well balanced with good HDR. It is very similar to the primary camera, which is this one right here. This is the wide-angle lens, and as you can see, the optical background blur is already really good. And look at that sharpness. This is the edge of the image, and it's quite sharp. For a 1x lens, I really do like the performance on this. The background blur naturally is very nice. This is all natural. No portrait mode, nothing, and the blur levels are actually very, very impressive. Overall, I would say the exposure levels and the sharpness are very nice as well. Great for landscape shots, great out-of-the-box performance, not much editing required at all. Now, looking at the different zoom levels, it goes 1x, 2x, and all the way up to 5x, all of which have really, really good quality. Take this image, for example. I wanted to zoom into the window. The right side is the 5x, and then I can go all the way up to 60, but this is at 20x. Looks really good. One thing I really liked about the zoom is the fact that the colors are similar across the board. It doesn't really shift any hue. And also, the sharpness is quite well maintained with the periscope lens. The wide lens doesn't have very good minimum focusing distance, but you do get an automatic macro mode, which is pretty decent. So for everyday pictures, it's pretty great. Landscapes is great. But we're talking about Zeiss here. We want to see that portrait mode, we want to see that background blur and how good it does. And honestly, this is one of the best I've ever seen. The separation is done so well. You get that real looking swirly bokeh in the background if you choose that specific style. Adjustment and stuff is very easy as well. Even with the different lenses, this is the 5x zoom, you get a pretty decent, realistic looking background blur. And it doesn't work just with people. Even with inanimate objects like this, you can see the blur is done really well and the fall off is very, very natural as we go from in focus to out of focus. The selfie is a 32 megapixel camera, which takes pretty decent pictures. It has the beauty mode, which I'm not a huge fan of, but yeah, the selfie camera is pretty nice, nothing too crazy. As for night mode, I was super impressed with this. In little to no light, it takes really good quality pictures. Here it is compared to the iPhone 12, iPhone on the right there. You can see the Vivo looks a lot better with more detail and light than the iPhone. Now, photography aside, let's take a look at the video performance. I took most of these shots that you're looking at right now in the Pro mode. And this is something that I should mention here. All the shots taken in Pro mode will look really great. But when you switch to the automatic video mode, the shots aren't as good. So As opposed to the photography side of things where the AI is able to take really great pictures, the video is not the same. So until here, everything you've seen is in Pro mode. Here I switch to the regular automatic mode and you can see it reduces the quality. The exposure looks a little bit off. It can be over or underexposed, a bit too warm in some areas. So I'm not a huge fan of the regular video mode, but if you shoot in Pro mode, it has really great results. Now onto the AI video, the bokeh that I told you about in the beginning of the video. As you can see, it tracks fairly well. Exposure can be a little bit off here and there. As you can see, it shifts quite a bit, and the edge separation and the edge detection isn't the best, but it also works with the front camera and the back. I do think this has a long way to go. It's not the best, but it's pretty cool. So with all that out of the way, I can easily say that this may not be the best camera phone for video, but when it comes to picture taking and portrait mode and the processing, Vivo has been one of my favorites in the recent past, and the X70 Pro is definitely going to make it to the top of my list. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like and subscribe for more content just like this.